The lunch crowd at the small roadside restaurant was noisy and bright, sunlight pouring through the dusty windows, but none of it could drown out the trembling in Mara Elwood's hands. She sat rigid at the corner table, her 8-year-old son Eli silently stirring melted ice in his empty glass. Mara's tired brown eyes kept flicking toward the man sitting across from her, a thick-necked, red-faced stranger named Colton Riggs who had pretended to be friendly when he first approached her at the gas station 2 hours earlier. But his smile had cracked, revealing something darker, something dangerous, and Mara knew she had made a terrible mistake by accepting a ride in his truck when her car broke down. Now she was trapped. If you're watching this on Kindness Tales, please hit like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances. It helps our stories reach more hearts. Mara's breathing grew shallow as she realized Colton wasn't simply helping. He had locked the truck doors earlier, taken her phone, and insisted they grab lunch together. His hand clamped on her wrist whenever she tried to stand. She didn't want to alert Eli, didn't want to terrify her little boy who already carried too many heavy memories after fleeing an abusive home. She had tried to appear calm, to keep her voice steady, but inside she felt the rising panic of a cornered mother. Behind them, at 3 tables pushed together, sat 4 leather-clad bikers, massive men with weathered faces, heavy rings, and jackets bearing the unmistakable patch of the Hells Angels. Most people avoided them. Most people looked away. But Mara remembered something Eli once said, "Mama, sometimes the people who look the scariest are the ones who protect others the most." She prayed he was right. Her mind raced back to a self-defense flyer she had once read at a community center. If you feel unsafe in public, subtly signal staff or nearby patrons by writing help on a napkin or ordering a distress drink. The restaurant had no such drink on the menu, so she reached for the napkin dispenser, her fingers trembling. Colton noticed. His eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" he growled. Mara smiled weakly. "Just wiping Eli's hands. Kids, you know." He stared at her for a long second before leaning back again. Mara slowly pulled a napkin onto her lap, hiding her hand under the table. With a pen she had stolen off the counter earlier, she wrote the word help followed by a shaking explanation. "He took my phone. My son is scared. Please." She waited until Colton turned to wave down the waitress, then folded the napkin, slid it to the edge of the table, and let it fall, accidentally, toward the row of bikers behind her. One of them, broad-shouldered, tattooed, with a gray beard braided down the middle, noticed it first. His name, stitched on his vest, read Braxton, Brax, Hawk. He picked up the napkin. His dark eyes grew sharp. He read it twice, then he lifted his head and silently signaled the others. Knox, a tall, blonde biker with a scar on his jaw, Rust, heavy-set with copper hair, and Hendricks, whose calm eyes missed nothing. They all looked at the woman and child. They saw the fear, and without a word, they stood. Mara didn't dare turn around, but she felt a sudden shift in the air, like the quiet before a storm. The waitress approached with menus, but Braxton reached her first, whispering something quickly. The waitress immediately stepped aside, wide-eyed. Colton glanced over, irritated by the movement. "What now?" he muttered. Braxton walked forward, slow and deliberate, the restaurant momentarily falling silent as chairs scraped and forks paused mid-air. He stopped beside Mara's table, towering over Colton with a calm that somehow felt more dangerous than rage. "You folks enjoying your lunch?" he asked casually, though his voice carried unmistakable authority. Colton looked him up and down. "Mind your business, old man." Braxton's lips curled in a humorless smile. "See, that's the problem. You're sittin' in my business." Rust and Knox flanked the table, forming a wall. Eli pressed into his mother's side, and Mara wrapped her arm protectively around him. Colton stiffened. "She's with me." Braxton's eyes flicked to Mara. "That true?" Her heart thudded painfully. She swallowed hard, then whispered the truth with every ounce of courage she had left. "No, it's not." Colton pushed back his chair violently. "Get out of my way." But the moment he moved, Knox's massive hand landed on his shoulder like a steel clamp. "Sit," he ordered, and for the first time, Colton looked genuinely frightened. Russ stepped between him and Mara, shielding her and Eli completely. Hendricks took out his phone and discreetly texted someone. Mara didn't know if it was the police or other bikers, but she instantly felt safer. Braxton leaned down, his voice dropping to a chilling calm. "You're gonna stay real still, friend. Cops are on their way. And you're not gonna touch this woman or her kid ever again." Colton sputtered. "She's lying." But his excuses died when Braxton set the napkin in front of him, the word help staring up like a verdict. A silence fell over the room so heavy it felt like gravity itself. Colton's body sagged, and that was that. When police arrived minutes later, they escorted Colton away in handcuffs. He shot Mara one last venomous glare, but Knox calmly stepped between them, blocking the sight completely. Once the officers left, the tension dissolved. People resumed breathing. The waitress brought over free pie from the kitchen, though Mara suspected who had really paid for it. When she finally looked at the bikers, tears blurred her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't know what else to do." Braxton crouched beside her, his voice gentle despite his intimidating frame. "You did exactly what you were supposed to. You protected your boy. Takes real strength to ask for help." Eli reached out shyly toward Braxton's large hand. The biker grinned and bumped the boy's fist softly. "Cool jacket," Eli said. Braxton let out a laugh. "You want one? Maybe when you're a bit older." Mara couldn't stop the tears now. She had spent years feeling invisible, an overworked waitress, a single mother, a survivor of a violent marriage, a woman struggling to stay afloat in a world that rarely noticed the exhausted or the poor. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. The bikers sat with her for a while, ordering food and making sure she and Eli ate until their plates were clean. They talked about safe rides, roadside help, and local community resources. Knox even stepped outside to look at her broken car. After an hour, he returned, wiping grease from his hands. "Starter's shot. But we can tow it to our friend's garage in Oak Ridge. He won't charge you a penny." Mara stared at him in disbelief. "But, why are you helping us so much?" Hendricks leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Because once upon a time, someone helped us. We pay it forward. That's the ride or die rule." Rust nodded. "Besides, kiddo needs to feel safe. And you deserve a break." By the time they all stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun, Mara felt the heaviness in her chest begin to lift. The bikers prepared their motorcycles while Knox hooked her old sedan to a small towing trailer. Eli watched in awe as the engines rumbled to life. Braxton walked up beside Mara. "Listen, if you ever feel unsafe again, you call this number." He handed her a small card with a single phone contact. "We look out for people in our county." She clutched the card like a lifeline. "I don't know how to repay you." "You already did," Braxton said. "You trusted us." When the bikers escorted her back to Oak Ridge, people stepped aside on the sidewalks, watching as Mara and Eli walked among four towering angels who seemed to treat them like family. It felt surreal, like stepping into a different life, one where she wasn't powerless but protected, valued. Scene.at The garage, Knox's friend repaired her car part by part, refusing any payment. Eli sat on Rust's shoulders, giggling for the first time in months. Mara watched, her heart swelling, realizing this day would remain forever etched in her memory, not just for the danger, but for the kindness that saved them. As the sun dipped low, painting the town gold, Braxton offered one last piece of advice. Life hits hard. But people can hit back harder when they stand together. You keep going, Mara. You're stronger than you know. She blinked away tears. I will. I promise. Before leaving, the bikers all lined up and bumped Eli's fist one by one. Mara whispered a quiet thank you to each of them, feeling a warmth inside her that she hadn't felt in years, and as they rode off into the fading daylight, their engines echoing like distant thunder, Mara held Eli close and whispered, "There are good people in this world, even where you least expect them."